That's what we have for the grand finals today. Let's go ahead and jump in and see if these guys got the memo already to get things rolling. I'm curious, since Top Cut doesn't get the higher seed advantage, just as it will be in Houston, even though you Top Cut, if you're higher seed, you still have to roll. Isn't that an interesting rule, especially coming from other TCGs? Do you like that rule, Ane?
So that's actually how it is in Yu-Gi-Oh! So I'm pretty used to
Oh,
that.
okay.
But I guess it does make a little bit of sense to me why you would not do it that way. But going first, again, I'm coming from Yu-Gi-Oh! Going first in Yu-Gi-Oh! Is such a giant advantage that it seems a little bit over the top to guarantee it to one person. Like if I end first in Swiss, I'm getting first every single game for the rest of the tournament, which is a lot. But I don't know. I could see it both ways.
You know, that's actually what happened in Atlanta. The set player, that's how they played it out, which I felt like was a big advantage so far at that tournament, which is why he ended up taking it all the way. So we'll see how things play out, but so far so good. These players are just naturally curving out the best of their abilities. Traveling Merchant will be the first thing scored for the Teemo side on that zone warren, so up 1 point, having the Yordle develop on the base so far, and not a monstrous start as we've seen Darius previously in today's tournament. You don't have to seal into Captain Vanguard. A little bit more tame, but it is a start nonetheless, having 2 units so far that you're able to split these attacks.
Yep, this is the turn that kind of defines how the Darius game will go. Like, does he have the seal? Does he have the hook? If not, maybe playing a little bit slower. I mean, it is the war camp. Unfortunately, he didn't get to go first with the war camp, which is where it gets really brutal, right? Because not only do you have the war camp to build up on, you get to score the first point. And when you score the first point, that means that you are comfortable just saying, I'm sitting on this the rest of the game. You have to push me off. Otherwise, good luck. So
Right.
it does get a little bit harder when you go second, because you do at some point have to score onto that second battlefield.
Yeah, we'll see what his approach will be this next couple turns, but thinking carefully, because this is grand finals. Every little move will matter or can be punished in these hands, because these players are some of the best players that came out to play today, if not the best players, if you will, because they're the ones in the finals. So gonna be going with the cleave, nice and simple on the token. It's only a consult the pass, so we'll get a conquer for his troubles, claiming the zone warrens, taking it away from Teemo, and able to push up with the manufacturer. So there he is, getting things rolling nice and early with 2 points most likely.
Yep, and we no longer have to worry about the, like I said before, the Teemo having the point lead. If you're Darius, now you are able to play for the even points, which is what you would like as an aggro deck. Whereas Teemo on odd points, which is generally, as far as I understand, what Teemo wants, is going on odd points and win through a hold. But, I mean, wow, okay, and loading up the battlefield as kind of expected.
Yeah, we've
War Camp's
seen
such a
this
powerful one.
before. A little bit of what we saw in that semifinals. Triferian War Camp might just be the best battlefield for Batsu, especially in the hands, especially for Darius players. And let's see how Teemo decides to do, because we were talking during the break, or even before the break, we were saying things like fight or flight. They're good against tall units, but against little multiple amount of units, doesn't feel that good. You know, though, we are talking about a blue deck, and blue does have access to pretty much the only board wipe currently in Riftbound, known as Unchecked Power. The question is, NA, do you think Teemo has a sideboard Unchecked Power? Because it could be pretty good in this matchup.
I would imagine probably not. I don't think I've ever seen any Teemos play it. And the problem with Unchecked Power and Teemo specifically is because you do need to hold to play. You need to control a battlefield to play your hiddens. So if you do choose to play the Unchecked Power, it then exhausts all your units, and it gets hard for you to shove up a unit onto a battlefield and then actually hide something. And the colors of Teemo aren't super conductive to having a accelerate unit. It's literally like Sprite Mother and Sprite Call. and then obviously Thousand Tail, but you can't play Thousand Tail and the unchecked power in the same turn. So it does get a little bit awkward, which is why generally I would not see it.
Mm-hmm.
But I mean, Prismat is on top of the Teemo game and is making innovations, so maybe he's got it. Maybe he's made this read that he'll play against Darius.
You know, and you did mention a fantastic option to him. Not this turn, but in the future turns, Thousand Tail Watcher actually works really good into something like a Trifarian Warcamp, because normally you have to go to a minimum of 1, but Trifarian benefits from that, or Watcher benefits from Trifarian, making those tokens take take even more of a loss, since the Trifarian buff is first, and then the Watcher gets the minus, but goes for just a Traveling Merchant so far. Decides to hide something on the Yordle side, and he only has that backline assault. So if that's a Teemo that we saw before getting +4 might, this might be a little problematic for Batsu, but he still has Darius in the champion zone, so he's never too in trouble, honestly.
Yeah, without the hook, though, you do actually have to play a bit more of an honest game and play cards from your hands instead of your deck. So it might be in his... Batsu might want to conquer here on the Warrens just to try and dig a bit deeper, try and find that hook, even though it can be a little bit scary pushing into the hidden, like we mentioned before, as generally it would be pretty safe.
Hold it down for 1 minute.
Yep,
I locked the door and my brother's here. We'll hold it down 1 minute.
Okay, sounds good. So anyways, pushing up into the Warrens, like we said, so the nice thing here would be is digging for the hook, but unfortunately, it was an actual hidden and not like a Consult the Past. Okay. You could have tried to go for like a read that it is a Consult the Past, as one was discarded and you don't want to see too many, but obviously not what he was choosing to do. Seeing more cards, maybe not trying to help you as much as having more impactful cards individually, so...
Oh man, yeah, and it looks like it was that Teemo coming in, so the Poro not getting anything for that push there, but now the play is obvious. There's nothing hidden, so he does have 6 runes available to try to get something done and make that 7. Oh no, 8. Wait, 2, 4, 6, 7, 8 with the Darius ability, of course. We've been at this a little bit too long today. I think he should be able to conquer if he decides to let go of this Darius champ this turn.
Yeah, so Batsu being at 3 here, ideally would want to go to evens again and conquer that Warrens. That being said, it gets a little bit difficult with the 4 might Teemo, and if you did want to play Accelerate, it would have to be like a unit Darius, or like the Vayne that we did see in a previous game is a clean take over the Teemo. But there are still 3 runes up, which represents like a fight or flight, or even like you can play Sprite Call as an action. That is a possibility, though that generally isn't done very often. And that all being said, and the hook is down.
The hook is down, and there's a good target on board. That manufacturer on the war camp gonna allow him to search out those matrons, and if Batsu is running like he's been running all day, that might just find him one, but it looks like he does have enough with the legend ability, so we'll pick the manufacturer. But the Gust as a reaction to the trigger, the baited hook. Prismat, such a genius of a player, knowing exactly what to expect, knowing that Batsu had that in mind pretty much the entire turn and played it perfectly. Well done. That was impressive. We haven't seen that all day.
Yeah, it might be a little bit of a greedy hook there, as he was trying to maybe hit a 4 might. I'm not sure what 4 might he's trying to hit. Maybe the matron seems a little bit too early without like a captain in play. But yeah, I would have expected hitting one of the Legion, the manufacturer in the base, and then try and go for like a captain. But I'm sure Batsu has a plan, and I'm sure there was a reason for it. So
yeah, honestly, probably just wasn't playing around a Gust. Like most players most likely wouldn't be playing around a Gust in that situation, but Teemo, knowing what he needs to get done in this game, pushing forward the Traveling Merchant, gonna be going up to 4 points so far. So the point tempo has shifted ever so slightly. I mean, Batsu has decent board development so far on his side, But let's see what more Teemo could get done. It is his turn. He does have 8 runes. I mean, we saw a Watcher to close things out in that set game. A little premature to get it down right now. But I would imagine maybe like a Raven Bloom, maybe hide 1 or 2 cards in these battlefields just to really keep Batsu on his toes. Most likely will be what he's going to accomplish this turn.
Yeah, and you'll notice that he did opt to pull off the battlefield, as this is the Watcher turn for Teemo, right? We're now on 8 runes, so the Watcher threat is real. So building up that giant army on the war camp is really not real, right? Because the Watcher by itself will clear most of it, unfortunately. And seeing as the hook did get traded for the gust, it gets even worse, right? Because now you're down a unit and only have the Kaisa plus the manufacturing token to work with. So this is a pretty good situation for Prismat, to be honest.
Yeah, lots of card advantage so far. Lots of runes to work with. Still has his champ in case he wants to go ahead and hide that as well. And Batsu with just 2 cards. I mean, that's not an uncomfortable or unfamiliar situation that Batsu's been in. This whole tournament we've been talking about how he's able to get so much done with so little card advantage. The only difference here though, normally when he has so little cards, he normally has a big board state. In this situation, 1 token, a manufacturer, and a Kaisa, I mean, it's not nothing, but not as crazy as we've seen him do previous games.
Yes, and unfortunately, because he failed to conquer on the previous turn, he is on odd points now. And even a double conquer doesn't fix that here, right? Because then you just go to 5, and you're still 2 turns away from victory.
Yeah, and this is an interesting decision from Prismat because he's thinking deeply. I think he might just be one of those players. Actually, I'm willing to bet he is one of those players that likes to think more than a couple turns ahead. He knows if I play this, my opponent most likely will do that. Therefore, I should do this now. So sometimes the brightest players in the game, just like in chess, they're thinking those 2, 3, 4 moves ahead. And sometimes that's what separates the competitive from the pro players, which Prismat has shown to be one of those players. Maybe he will show it here today as well with this Teemo deck. I'm curious though, because this is a good amount of time in the think tank.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of thinking to do here, as you do have to make sure that you're answering what's on the bench, what could be hit off the hook. You have to remember that the Darius champion unit is in play. You have to think about the stratagem push when it does happen. I mean, there's a lot to consider here. As long as both players are okay with it, which, I mean, they clearly are here, as there's no argument from Batsu. I do like letting the high caliber players really think this out so you get a really quality game. But looks like a play is finally being committed. Probably an Ember Monk. Yep.
Yeah, Ember Monk, and interesting enough, pulling back the Teemo and then hiding the Teemo from the champ zone and then hiding what might just be the other Teemo that he picked up onto the other side. So 2 most likely 4 might units being hit right now. On top of that, there's another 4 might going to be incurring from the Ember Monk. So that zone warrants it defending quite handsomely. A total of 8 might. Maybe, of course, I mean, guaranteed, because if he reveals the 2 hidden, but if one of those is the Teemo on Zone Warrens, that's going to be a total of 12 might to defend. Not looking too bad. Let's see what Batsu and his 3 current cards in hand. He does have a baited hook. It always feels good, but it feels better to do things on top of the war camp, and it looks like Teemo not making it so easy to get into that war camp currently.
Yep, I would not really want to be in this situation if I was Darius. Darius definitely preferring to play from ahead, but has found himself a bit on the back foot here, not only in the board state, but also Teemo is going to be quite ahead in cards, because I'm imagining at least one of these, well, maybe not. We did choose the pitch a consult the past earlier, but getting over the Ember Monk is going to be pretty tough, if not impossible this turn. Because it's going to go, what you said, 4 + 4 + 2 at the very least. So at least, what, 10, right?
Well, Ember Monk alone with 2 reveals, it gets +2 from each reveal. So 8 on himself, and then his Zone Warren hidden card is a Teemo. That's going to be 12 total might defending that.
Yeah. That was assuming that the hit in there. Oh, okay. So you're right. It's double Teemo.
Well, we saw one getting pulled back and then one from the champ zone, which is probably just the best guess we could get. But I mean, there's so many hit cards. It could have been anything at this point. But does reveal the Teemo on the war camp and doesn't let him conquer. And now only has a Kaiser and the token, but does have the champion zone. Darius, does he have a second card? Most likely he will. It will be a manufacturer. Doesn't use his Darius ability. Interesting enough.
Yeah, so maybe he has like a cleave or something left.
Mm-hmm.
But does a cleave get through that? I don't think it does, right?
Yeah, I was just about to say the same thing. I just don't think it's enough because you have 4 from Kaiser, you have 1 from the token. You're not going into war camp, so you're not going to get +1 on each of those units. Cleave gets you up to 7. The token it goes up to 8, and the unit or the flash monk alone would be at 8 with the hidden reveal.
It's just for hook. Yeah.
Okay, fair enough.
Yeah. Though it is unfortunate again because we have not seen a captain yet, so even the hook into like a matron isn't gonna feel nearly as good.
Yeah, you're right. Doesn't feel the best. There's at the very minimum a manufacturer in the trash as we're seeing it here, but doesn't feel as good as the Captain Vanguard. We have yet to see Batsu in this position, almost on the back foot. He's so often, more often than not, pushing the pace, not letting go of the gas. And in this situation, he's kind of having to slow down at the hands of Teemo right now, which seems crazy because just like we talked about on paper, it felt like Darius had somewhat of a favorable matchup against Teemo, but having to just pass, conquering 1, does get into that even threshold, but does let Teemo score 1 more, and he's gonna go up to 5. And you know what happens with all these runes, there is that big crazy 1,000 tail watcher. Maybe if he has more than 1, I wouldn't mind spending 1 now just to conquer and get up to 6.
Yeah, there's like Watcher, there's like Singularity. Yeah, Singularity into Darius Kaisa is pretty clean here. This is really, really rough from Darius' perspective. It's like, what do you even do? You have to push the Ember Monk off at some point.
Mm-hmm.
So like, and like we said, that's defending for 10, so you have to go 10 into that. And what are we at points wise? What is a Draven even swinging for? Draven is swinging for 4-7.
Yeah, 7 so far. And Teemo looking pretty good so far, going up to his 6 points. So if he's able, it looks like he definitely has enough runes for a 1,000 tail watcher. It looks like, not to say he's wrapping things up, but he's setting up for quite the finish. If he's not able to take care of this Ember Monk, just as you said, it does most likely have the Teemo hidden card, bringing that total defensive might up to 10. I mean, going the easier route, I will say, is going to be the Sprite call. So it does get a conquer up to 5 himself. But now let's see what he's able to do against that Zon Warren's battlefield, because that's the complicated one. You have about 9 total runes to work with here. You have a baited hook searching for the Draven, as you mentioned, but you can't necessarily accelerate that Draven. So you might just allow Teemo to get the 7th point through hold. And if it's a 1,000 tail watcher and one of those last 3 cards, watcher plus a sprite mother pushing against a single token, even if he actually, I guess he could play the Draven onto the war camp, couldn't he?
But that would still get beat by the watcher, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. So unfortunate stuff there, and we know there is not a stratagem, because the stratagem, it doesn't cleanly beat this. You do, but it does actually clear the board and push in. Still losing to the watcher. What is the play here?
Yeah, he's thinking very carefully, but sometimes, I mean, sometimes there is an out. Sometimes if you think carefully, if you just really think about your cards, think about your different sequences or play lines, you do discover something that you didn't see at first. But in this situation, it just doesn't seem too ideal for Batsu and his Darius deck. I mean, what a great game Teemo has shown in this game one. You know, Darius has a tough time sometimes against Kaisa decks with Falling Stars. Teemo pretty much has an upgraded Falling Stars. I know it's a little bit more expensive being at 6 energy, but once you get into that later game, Singularity does a lot of work against aggressive decks like Batsu's bringing to the table. But let's see what this Matron is able to get done, just trying to hold down the war camp. But oh, NA, I don't know. I think a Watcher still gets it done. No.
Yeah, I believe Watcher should still clear here because that is 1, 2, 3. It's just going to be 4, 5 might on the war camp if the Watcher does come down. There was a play there, but obviously he didn't have the cards. But if you did see like a Falling Star or a Hidden Blade into a Vein, that would be able to clear the Warrens.
Okay.
Unfortunately, he did not have that, so I think he's deciding if he wants to play this on the war camp.
Maybe he has a Darius in hand and wants to try to send it into the Ember Monk, but that's still not going to be too ideal. If that is that Teemo we're speculating, I think I never want to call it too soon, but I think it is all but over. Batsu trying to see what he can do, going for a baited hook. Most likely going to be on that manufacturer, because if he's able to hit something like another Matron or a Draven, maybe that's his only out so far. Maybe that's the only opportunity he could try to keep this game still alive for himself.
Not a lot of options here. Hopefully, did get a real hit. Thinking in the tank. Okay, that's not bad. Not bad at all.
Yeah, not bad. And I think deciding to play it into the base. So leaving the war camp not super exposed, but not feeling too protected at the same time. He does have 5 more runes to work with. That is enough runes for a Draven. He's at 5 total, so the Draven will be protecting or trying to protect the war camp at 8 total might, with the +1 from the war camp would be at 9, minus the 3 from the Watcher, defending at 6. Then that'll be 7, 8, 9, I guess. But with the Watcher and Sprite Mother, I think that's still enough to take it down.
Yeah, because you are opting to not take the Warrens here or contest it. I mean, wasn't able to contest the Warrens. So that does mean that the Watcher plus Sprite Mother can both swing in. And that would be obviously, so 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And then if he did put the other 3 units, 6, 7, 8, and then 10 into 8 does beat it. So I think Batsu is just saying you don't have the Watcher. That's fine. If you have it, it is whatever. Sometimes you got to pick what you lose to.
Right.
And in this case, I mean, it's just the Watcher. I think you do lose to a Singularity as well, the way this is played, because you just go Singularity on the Matron plus the Captain, and then you just send in the oh, okay, never mind. We're playing the Darius from hand. Okay, fair enough.
Fair enough indeed. It's not a Draven, but Darius is about the best play he can do. He's just saying, if you have the Watcher, so be it. But there's only 4 cards remaining in your hand. What is the likelihood that one of those 4 cards will be the Thousand Tail Watcher? It almost feels very likely. Oh, to make matters worse, a stack deck will be digging into the deck 3 deep, trying to find it. Looks like it froze a little bit. Hopefully it'll get back together. There it goes. So looking at 3, if he didn't have the Watcher, I think he might have found it. But the fact that he stacked deck first might be telegraphing that he might not just have the Watcher right now.
Yeah, not having the Watcher does make this more difficult. It does make it into a real game. You can hit a Watcher, you can hit a Singularity. There are a couple like immediate game enders. Oh,
Oh,
ooh, okay, this is different. This is strong. Don't get me wrong. Darius does play Hidden Blades though, so this is something that can be answered. Will it be answered? It's a bit difficult, but this does represent a threat that Darius can deal with.
yeah. That he will, and he does have enough runes for something like a Grand Stratagem, but you can also pull back the Darius, and if you're able to play out both cards right now in hand, might not be the most ideal, but you will be able to ready it so that you're able to swing into that Zone Warrens with at least a Darius, a Captain Vanguard, and a couple of tokens. That should be enough for the total 10 might we're speculating to be on that battlefield. And then Dr. Mundo and Sprite Mother have to do the rest of the job for Teemo. Of course, I mean, if he didn't have the Watcher last turn, he has to draw it. He has to draw it, and he will most likely win. But if he doesn't draw it, there could be some wiggle room for Batsu. I think both players are playing this fantastic. Batsu playing towards his out. As you said, you have to play with, you know, pick and choose what you're going to lose to, and he decided, okay, if you have the Watcher, you have it, and Teemo did not. So you love to see it, and gonna just try to bait out this hidden. This is an interesting decision. Okay, that did make sense, just to trade the Teemo to reveal the hidden. That does make sense.
Yeah, do agree with that. So now we have 6 in. So if we can trigger the Darius here, we can clear the monk, which we do have the hook for, so it is kind of guaranteed.
And
if you do manage,
no, go ahead.
I was gonna say, if you do manage to clear the monk, it does force Teemo to be able to take both battlefields, which seeing as the Watcher didn't get dropped last turn, that could be a little bit difficult.
Let's see what he ends up hitting off this baited hook, sacrificing the Matron. Will it be a Draven? Will it be a Darius? You have some options available. Seeing what he flips, it will be a Darius. So that's going to be the first card played this turn. Is one of those two cards. I mean, everything in Batsu's deck should cost less than 6 total runes, so he should be able to activate both of these Dariuses, going in swinging for a total. Ooh, I like these plays so far from Batsu. If there is maybe if there even is a Thousand Tail Watcher, no, I think a Thousand Tail Watcher definitely still gets it done, but things are getting really close. 7-7, tying things up. One more point these players need. Teemo right now has to conquer both battlefields. I mean, let's think about it. If he doesn't push in the Darius, a Watcher definitely should be able to get the job done.
Yeah, Watcher should, I believe, should be able to take this. So you have what, 10 from Sprite Mother plus Watcher into the Draven should be what, at 10, right? So 10 into, so it goes to 7.
Or 11,
so that would actually trade.
Oh no, 10. Oh, with War Camp 11.
Yeah, so that would trade. So you'd need like a Gust or something else to remove a token. And then the Mundo obviously is clearing whatever it attacks into. So you could actually, what would be better is you can go, it does still checkmate, right? Because you push up the Darius onto the Warrens, and then the Mundo just clears the battlefield, the war camp, and then you go play the Watcher, and then that brings the, oh wow, okay, choosing, you know what, I like it, because he said before you just don't have a Watcher, so playing like he doesn't have a Watcher. Pick and choose what you lose to, right?
Exactly. You have to force him to conquer both in a single turn. Even with the Watcher, he's playing towards his big is out. There's 14 total. Make that 11 total in his trash, because you have to recycle 3 at the start of the turn. So Mundo up at 17 total might. That's what he has to do. So he sends it into the war camp. If he does send it into the war camp, that's going to be attacking for 18. These guys are doing the math. Let's see what he has. Stack deck to try to search for the Watcher one more time. Is he going to be able to hit it? Because that could be the exact card he didn't. He grabbed it kind of fast. Maybe that was the Watcher.
I feel like if it's the Watcher, you probably just reveal it and say GG's. So maybe not that simple.
Yeah, because
I would be very impressed if Batsu got this.
Yeah, if Batsu ends up playing it and, oh, what is that?
He flipped his deck over? Uh,
So I think those are the ones he recycled. He recycled for Dr. Mundo, so he kind of put them to the side.
okay.
Recycle 3 from your trash.
Hmm.
I wonder why he did put him on the trash. Either way, it's not going to be changing anything. I think. Okay, slightly confused. If anyone wants to let, he took back the 2 he bottom. Oh, he changed his pick. That is an interesting little interaction. Of course, it's up to your opponent. If Batsu's allowing it, then we'll allow it here. And a little bit higher potential state of play might not go down the same way, but the singularity taking down double Darius, is this enough? NA, you have 19 total might. You do get a second draw, one more draw.
So what, 20 into, so Draven is at 11.
Make it 10
And
now with
11.
the Stupefy.
Oh, wow. That should
Oh,
be game, right?
I think so. 22 might is a little bit too formidable. That was a lot of power on Batsu's side. And wait, there was a watcher? Okay, Prismat just wanted to do things differently, but nonetheless equates to the same result. That will be a game 1 victory for Prismat. Well played. I thought you could save us the trouble with just a watcher there.
Yeah, maybe I'm missing the math, but it did seem like the Watcher was just clean game and not needing to go through all the hoops, because right there, if you do not have okay, yeah, that's a good point. He could have just drawn the Watcher off of the zone.
True.
Yeah.
He dig deep. He did dig very deeply for that. Even Falling Stars doesn't slow it down. So maybe these 2 picks aren't too bad to take to Houston. I mean, at the very least, a lot of people won't be prepared for it, which does give you a bit of an upper hand sometimes.
Yeah, for sure. I think the Darius deck is a deck that is really underrepresented. And not only is it underrepresented, but a lot of people don't really understand how the deck works. And it does a lot of unfair things, to say the least.
Yeah.
So, oh wow! Oh, I did not expect this. Prismat is also on Warcamp.
Oh man, yeah, you're totally right. I was like, wait a minute, who's on who? But Darius was just on the Warcamp. So theoretically, it almost seems like Batsu benefiting greatly with his baited hook strategy. On top of that, going first with Arena's Greatest. But I like that from Teemo because I think it makes the math harder going up against things, as we mentioned, Kaisers or the Annies, to make their Void Seekers that much harder. When you flip Teemo, he's going to be revealed for 5. So you get out of the range of things like Void Seeker. So I can respect the Tri-Frame Warcamp. Why else? Do you think it's something for like the Watcher plays in the end game as well?
Well, when you're playing these hidden units, which a Sprite Call can be, or again, like you said, Teemo, it does make the swing 2 might bigger, or a might bigger, which maybe that does fix some math that he's done. Like, I guess it makes, for instance, like maybe Kaisa's swinging in or Darius's swinging in, he might have some math behind that makes that him win those cleanly. Interesting. I had not seen it before. Prismat, he's got all the techs.
Yeah, all the tech indeed. And gonna be going with what he usually does on his own Warcamp. Gonna be applying that same strategy onto Teemo's Warcamp. Yordo gonna be getting up, and I totally forgot to count these guys as points for the Arena's Greatest. So Batsu going up to 2, Teemo going up to 2 as well with his Conquer with the Yordle. I like the start though so far from Batsu. This is almost a picture perfect start so far. Double Raven Bloom plus the hidden Teemo. I like how you don't even hide it. Or I don't even think, because you could put it to... No, I guess it doesn't matter. You just paid 1 regardless, because you could have tapped your leader. Oh, no, you had to pay 1 to do that. So yeah, you just do it straight from the champ zone.
Yep, this is slightly more efficient and does let him use all the resources that he does have. So going back to Batsu here, obviously does have the giant army on the Warcamp. Will he find the hook? We did find a captain way earlier than the last game. That's like the first piece, right? And you want to see the hook for the matrons.
Right. Or in this situation, even the Glory Seeker gets it done when you sacrifice it with that baited hook. But yes, you're totally right to hit those matrons, trying to reveal the Teemo. So just trading 1 for 1, leaving that Teemo even at 4 a little bit exposed. If there is something, okay, going for the Vayne. I was going to say Kaiser or a Darius. The Vayne being a +3 assault is right at the perfect break point against the Teemo, going up to 5 total might. And he does bring it back, so he's able to keep playing it over and over again. I like what's going on Batsu's board so far.
Yeah, it's pretty nice with the Teemo in particular, right? Because it does beat the 2 might unit plus the Teemo. So it does force you to... It even beats like the Raven Bloom plus well, I guess it... if he can just force it out like he did by just pushing up a little unit, trading, and then trading in, it does kind of stop that from happening, right? Because you can always just drop the Vayne and say bye-bye. Having to pay the power cost every turn hurts a little bit, but honestly, Darius is so good at playing with like such little power that does it really matter? Maybe not.
And how do you feel about the retreating or recalling all the units from the war camp? Because it wasn't necessarily a watcher turn, or at least not an accelerated watcher turn. Do you think maybe trying to be a little cognizant of something like a singularity and then double push Raven Bloom?
Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, it could be something like that. I'm not super well versed. Like, is there anything that he could be siding? Is it maybe respecting the unchecked power, like you said?
Right.
I think 7 runes.
Yeah, you're totally right. That is at 7 runes. He could at the very minimum be running 1 in the sideboard, I would imagine. I mean, it's a great card against things like Master Yi, those Aurora decks. You kill those big units. But it looks like Teemo just going to be keeping things straightforward. Going to be going up to 4 points himself. Now let's see what he has. So Traveling Merchant hitting the base. Does he have any little bit more? It looks like he's going to continue to just develop the base so far. Tide Turner not going to be getting its ability because I think you have to be revealed from the hidden zone. Actually, no, it's when you play me, but it's a May trigger. So decides to not do it and goes ahead and hides. So now Batsu, maybe an indicator that he has something like a grand strategy in pulling those units back. I could almost respect that as well.
Yeah, only at 4 points though here, so you do end up having to take both battlefields 2 turns in a row.
Right.
Maybe trying to set up for a stratagem for the game on the next turn. That could be an option as well. Teemo does only have 2 cards this time. We're not seeing the Teemo before where he has infinite cards in his hand and he's ramped infinite. Does have to play a little bit more on the fair side, play with the board this time, whereas Darius has his 5 cards in hand, and we know one of them is the Vayne. Still has access to the Darius unit as well. So ideally, if you can take a double conquer this turn and then still keep yourself at getting to 6 runes, hopefully with 2 yellows on the next turn, you can thread in a stratagem for game.
Yeah, we'll see. It all depends if he's able to get to that 6 points, of course. Plenty of runes, plenty of cards, as you mentioned, to work with. Let's just see how he's able to get things done, because not a lot of might on both of these boards and just 2 runes available to Teemo at the best. Maybe that's something like a fight or flight. Push one of those units back. Raven Blooms gets 1 might apiece. I would imagine that's about as best you can do. Of course, one of the hidden cards on that Arena's Greatest could be another spell. Consult the Past, and he's running solo on cards. I wouldn't put it past Prismat to hide a Consult the Past, get that draw 2 and 1 might on each of those respective Raven Blooms as well, on top of a potential Stupefy. So I see why Batsu's taking his time, because even though there's not too many cards in hand, the potential options are a little bit scary, I will say.
Yeah, and if you do choose to play around these, then you start having to lose more units yourself, right? Like you shove up a token plus a unit into the Raven Bloom to play around to Stupefy, and now you are losing a unit for that potential stratagem turn next turn. So you kind of got to weigh your options and decide, what do I think he has? What am I okay with losing to?
Decides to just push in with 2 units, so 7 to the current 3 from the Raven Bloom, so a stacked deck going to be making that a 4. even a Stupefy in this position, you'll go up to 5 versus the 6, so you're still feeling decent. I think that was a perfect push-up from Batsu, guaranteeing yeah, pretty much guaranteeing this conquer on the war camp. I think Teemo's just trying to get a little bit more cards available for this follow-up turn, because he's down to a single card, or of course he's gonna get one for the stack deck, but down to just 2 cards remaining. His board state decent, just a little bit too low on might, if I will say so.
Yeah, not a lot of bombs on the board, and ideally you see something off of this that's either going to pick away at the Darius board or potentially let you see more cards like a Consult the Past, because you don't really want to play with such a small board plus cards, because again, you've committed your champion unit. That's no longer an option. The Darius champion unit has not been committed, so you're always going to have to respect that 7 might swing. And again, no cleaves have been played yet. There's the stratagem. There could be a potential like Falling Star. A lot of scary cards for you. So you definitely want to put yourself in a position that you're not losing to board.
Yeah, let's see if there's another follow-up card following that stack deck, because Raven Bloom's up to 4. Just going to be trading with the Vanguard so far, so does get the Conquer going up to 5 points. So little by little, Batsu's inching his way forward, inching his way closer to that game 3. And that should be the deciding game, of course, the final game. If we get there, a couple turns away from that, of course. 2 tokens in the back line. Is there anything he can do to try to take care of the arena's greatest with that Raven Bloom? And the one hidden, which it almost feels like I said before, it almost feels like it's going to be a Consult the Past because he's so low on hands. I would imagine that's what he has in mind. So playing around that, you don't have to send too much. You do have the Vayne in hand coming in for the 5 total might. 5 with a token brings you up to 6. Let's see what he's going to end up playing around here.
Yeah, it would be pretty bad if this is a Sprite call. If you shove up just the Vayne, because your Vayne dies, and then you have used 2 power for this. But at the same time, if you don't really have a way to beat that as far as I'm aware, because you only have 7 total might for your own push-up. But, okay, fight or flight. I mean, this kind of works too, right?
Pretty much gets the job done. It defends from that Conquer and allows you to hold a point, because I don't think he's able to push it up anymore.
Yeah, you could go like cleave on a token and push up, but I doubt he really wants to do that. It is unfortunate because that fight or flight did keep him on odd points now. So Darius is on 5, which you don't like to see, but hey, I mean, you can't be too unhappy. Because it wasn't a Consult the Past, Teemo's still very low on cards and is playing with a pretty small board here. And you did get to keep your Vayne, so you do get to push up on the next turn, and you are ahead in points.
And not a Sprite call, but it will be a Sprite Mother, getting those tokens online, or getting a token online, pushing in onto the war camp. The Shen, Batsu, one of the best players to deploy the Shen. We've seen it time and time again do some wonders. Shen coming in with the defend 2, 5 might, or 6 with the war camp, bringing it down to 5. Still going to be more than enough, because that's 7, 10 total might on the war camp versus the 7 coming in, but still did the Stupefy in order to trade 2 total units. But I like that play. Shen coming in clutch so often for Batsu.
Yeah, the Shen card's really cool. Right now, the only reaction unit in the game. We are getting some more, but that is for us 2 months in the future. We won't worry about that now.
Right, so far from now it feels like, but at least we can maybe play it on Tabletop Simulator or TCG Arena a little bit sooner than that. And it looks like Teemo expecting something like a Shen, because he's saying, I'm gonna trade these units and then I have a follow-up play of a Sprite call to get an accelerated unit and push up that final Glory Seeker. So going up to 6, Batsu, what seemed to be in full control of this game, almost finding himself in a bit of that back foot that we saw in game 1. Full battlefield control for Teemo. If he's able to hide this final card, he might just be able to hold one, but he's going to retreat the Raven Bloom. It doesn't seem too confident from this Teemo, so I don't think this one card is super ideal for Teemo, honestly.
Yeah. So a reason to retreat the Raven Bloom is if you don't, it does open up the possibility of going Vayne over the Sprite, and then you can just bounce the Vayne and then play the Vayne again and conquer over the Raven Bloom, which is a 1-card outing both of the battlefields. The way he's playing this makes me think that the last card is not, again, like a Watcher or something that kind of guarantees the win through no matter what Batsu does. As he is in the tank, I think if it is a Watcher, you just say, okay, I'm retreating Raven Bloom, take your double conquer, I don't care, and then I just Watcher on the following turn. The only thing that you do need to be aware of is that Batsu does go to 6, so you do need to make sure that you play around a stratagem on your own turn, right? So if you do pull back and then he play a Watcher, and then you swing in and then you play stratagem, things could potentially get dicey if Batsu is able to somehow stick multiple units onto the battlefields. However, with the units that he has right now, even like if you do play a Watcher, he would still be able to clear them with board, even if there was a stratagem, as it's only going to be 1 unit on each battlefield. But it looks like instead opting to hole up on the war camp.
And I like that. Sometimes a little bit of underestimated play when you don't have any cards in hand and you move the Traveling Merchant, you get that nice little net +1 draw. So we did get confirmation it wasn't indeed a Watcher. It will be a hidden card, maybe a Consult, maybe a Tide Turner, maybe a Teemo. You never know with a Teemo Legend, but throws it back over to Darius. Not in the best position in terms of points. He wishes he was able to conquer with that Vayne last turn and bring him up to 6, because if he was at 6 and Teemo completely tapped out, this might just be GG right now, especially considering the fact that Darius, the chosen champion, is still available to him. So could keep it simple. Token to Arena's Greatest, Vayne, and maybe the Darius champ to try to contest the war camp. At worst, or even at best for Teemo, if you will, that's going to be +4 might, or +5 might, since it's on the war camp from that Teemo. What other card could punish Batsu even more than that?
And this is a little bit hard, unfortunately, because you did go down so much in power, as you did miss the hook and he had to actually play stuff for its full costs. Isn't quite as simple. You can still go like conquer Vayne, bounce up Vayne, but because the war camp, so this is where the war camp is actually putting in a lot of work for Teemo, right? Because now that Sprite and the Merchant represent 7 might with a potential another 4 might if that's like another Sprite call, or a Teemo is like another 5 might. So it's a lot. It's a lot, and the Vayne doesn't deal with it herself.
Yeah, doesn't deal with it too well. Does at least guarantee a conquer on the battlefield below. So just thinking about how is he going to approach this Triferian War Camp conquer, because he has 3 cards in hand, 2 more than Teemo currently. I mean, I'm assuming he has at least 1 that can pay. I mean, he has to go 5 runes. Okay, I see what he's thinking, because he might not have a 2-cost card. 2 costs, either like a little Pouty Poro. Of course, the cleave would be ideal in this situation for the Darius, or even the Vayne. Trying to clear things like a Vayne attacking for 5 with the war camp +1 6. The cleave would bring it up to 9. That's enough to at least clear the 2 units below the hidden. So we'll see. I mean, we know it's grand finals time when these players are really taking their time. They don't want to make any mistake. This is pretty much half of the prize pool is on the line. These guys want the majority of it because they spent so much time today, especially Batsu being, I think, 4 a.m., 5 a.m. We think it's late for us. Batsu staying up the whole overnight shift.
Yeah, I would not want to be having to think like this at 3, 4 a.m. I don't think I would be able to. And then go to work the next day. Well, it's a weekend, maybe not.
Yeah, maybe. I think Sunday's still fine for him. But yeah, still thinking maybe he's having to think harder because it is that late. But sometimes when you're in the heat of the moment, you don't even think about how tired you are. You want to get the victory. You want to be crowned the Cash Cup champion, get the glory and the cash on top of that. Looking to just remember to refresh his memory. What did I hide there again? Batsu's taking so long. I already forgot what I hid in. But I'm sure Batsu's going to decide to play soon.
It is very hard for Batsu because not only do you have to do a double conquer, but you need to do so in a way that puts up enough of a wall that Prismat can't just go shove up student, shove up Sprite Mother for game. And with the 2 units, like Vayne only defends for 2, and your token defends for 1. So that means you have to commit either the Darius from your champion zone or a unit from hand, because what you have on board does not do enough.
So going with the straightforward play we mentioned before, just token him guarantee the conquer. There's no runes at the ready for Teemo, so it does guarantee to get the 6. Or why did I add 6? Oh, maybe I didn't have him at 6. Oh, no, I'm on Teemo's points. You know I'm tired and 6 points for Darius. I was like, why is Teemo... and Teemo's at 6. I accidentally added the wrong side. But 6-6, tying things up. Now he thought about, how can I get this war camp away from the Teemo player? And it looks like it's not too easy. I don't think he likes what he has in his current hand, or else he probably would have deployed it already. Trying to see if there's maybe a way to just try to hold potentially the bottom battlefield, but with an assault unit, you never really want to prioritize holding, right? So maybe Batsu doesn't like the position he's finding himself in right now.
Yeah, I mean, you could say, like, I'm going to play Darius to the battlefield and shove up Vayne, and that's, what, 8 might, and that feels awful, but it does beat board. And I say beat board in that only what's on board, but there's obviously the card in hand, there's the hidden that could be the Consult the Past. Okay, so it looks like opting to... Okay, it was a Consult the Past, so Darius is going to be able to take this. This does force Prismat to actually have cards in hand that are relevant, right? Because what's on board is not doing it.
Yeah, and that's a good play. Just sending in a single unit so that Vayne doesn't die, of course. If Darius was defeated, you could send in Vayne as the follow-up piece, but decide to send in Vayne anyways. Interesting enough, just to not make it so easy for maybe another Sprite Mother, Sprite Call to go in with just the Sprite Mother and the token to push in. So I can respect that play instead of just leaving the Darius alone, because he just needs to essentially hold 1. But with the Consult the Past plus the turn draw, he now finds himself with 4 total cards. And digging a little deeper, a Thousand Tail Watcher would be quite devastating for Batsu. Able to come in accelerated, gonna be enough to take down the war camp, and there's not a lot of might pressure on Arena's Greatest. A Watcher is exactly what Teemo needs right here, right now. Does he end up finding it is the question, because he couldn't find it in game 1. Is he a little bit more fortunate in this game 2?
Watcher works, a Singularity works, a lot of similar cards to last game. But any way to remove these units or reduce their might is going to be good here. It does spend a little bit of time on it, so again, maybe not the easy answer. Maybe you can find a more difficult answer.
Yeah, he's always known for trying to find different paths, trying to get to the end goal. I mean, we saw Mundo come out in game 1. Mundo doesn't really get too much done because he needs to take care of both of these battlefields. If you don't, if you leave one open, that will be GG. We're heading ourselves into an extensive round 3, or not round 3, but a game 3. But it is their grand finals. These guys have a lot on the line, so we'll do it for these guys, of course. Let's see. Teemo almost taking as long as Batsu. These guys really don't want to make any kind of errors here.
Deep in the tank, we've had these guys are really thinking about this, which, I mean, with money on the line, I don't hate it. But all right, first play here.
Yeah, That is indeed step 1. Darius goes down to just 2 might, so collect a total of just 5. That's enough for maybe a Raven Bloom. If you follow that up with a Stupefy, that's all you really need. A Gus on the Glory Seeker. I like what I'm seeing so far from this Teemo player. There's plenty of runes. There's 2 more cards available. 5 to actually, that's going to be 6. That's enough on its own. You love to see it, and you see why Teemo was thinking about it so much, because just with a single unit, and oh my goodness, that was the ideal situation for Teemo and Prismat, taking both of these battlefields away. And his Batsu, oh no, that was 6. That was it.
Yeah, that was it.
That is our grand. For some reason, I thought he was at 5, but Raven Bloom and Sprite Mother getting the 7th to 8th point. Teemo, Prismaticism doing what he does and comes into our cash cup, taking it all for himself, he said, and GG, he will be our cash cup champion.